Hello, hello, and welcome to Convex
Hello,
Real
everyone.
Live. Hi, Jamie.
Hello, James. How are you doing in the other room? I just saw you, but let's pretend that we're.
Yeah, we're Jamie's just over there.
We should catch up sometime. It's been
Yeah,
too long.
we should hang.
Yeah.
I miss you.
Oh, oh, you went genuinely heartfelt
Yeah,
there. That was. Don't do that to me.
welcome to the stream, folks. We're here to answer your questions and for me to yap, as was called out last time around. So trying to think of what we can share in terms of like Convex updates to get us started. There's been a lot of events lately, a lot of conferences and interesting things. So this is like not the product but on the community side. We were at SyncConf last week, and I had a talk there and a panel session there. I liked it. It was fun. It was good meeting everyone finally. Like there's a lot of folks like Aaron from Xero and Johannes Strickling, who I hadn't met before. So nice to meet them. I realize I have a better understanding of the sync landscape now. I'm not sure if you felt that way, Jamie.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I do feel like it helped just to have everyone in the same room together and so many talented technologists, but kind of working on somewhat different problems. That was my. What do you think?
Yeah. Well, I think because everyone has this like competing almost takes, like almost like conflict or like on like what sync means and what the right way of approaching this problem is, and then you meet people in person and everyone's so reasonable in person, and then you're like, oh, this person just has a different set of priorities. And so, for example, I will just call out very clearly, like Johannes is very much of like the ink and switch kind of philosophy of like local first as it being about freedom, or like being about like the client really is authoritative, and it's really it's a philosophical perspective on like you don't always need to have a server involved, and wouldn't it be better if we had apps without servers as a prime part of the interaction pattern. So I get that. Like I understand those. I appreciate those values. I think that's not where we come from. So we are part of the same community, but from a different perspective. And so I'm not, like, to be clear, like I'm pro server. Like I like centralization largely. I'm a distributed systems researcher traditionally, but like I think systems generally are more efficient when you have a central point of coordination, and I think most users want that. So for when we say sync or local first at Convex, what we really mean is like, yeah, we think the server is still the source of truth, but we want really excellent experience for the client. So we want good offline mode, we want low latency, we want local caching, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I think and I also think, just because I find all good technology done by good technologists really interesting, like I think there's also like no one right answer here. Like, for example, one of my favorite apps I ever built, I started building 5-6 years, well, no, it was longer than that, I guess. Man, it's been a while. 8 years ago, I started building a personal password manager, and I used CRDTs, and then any cloud bucket that supported like compare and swap would work basically, and it was great for that, right? And that was my passwords, and so it's a kind of app, right, where like the data ownership side of things is obviously crucially important, and the server should have an extremely limited, opaque relationship with the data. So and I don't regret that choice at all. It was a great fit for that, and it was the right app. So, at Convex, though, we're kind of building for everyone to be able to make any kind of app, and I think that Server Central tends to make life simpler for the vast majority of things people are trying to build. And because of that reason, like certainly when James and I have our Convex hats on, we're much more interested in the version of Sync that makes things easier, but isn't necessarily prioritizing like data ownership and sort of server server obliviousness or whatever, right? That like any old server will do, kind of a thing. Architectures of the server helps you are just easier to build with for most kinds of applications, and that's really what our goal is here right now. So it was fun.
We're evil pro server capitalists.
Oh my god! Well, I'm not sure if that's.
No, we're good pro server capitalists. But yeah, that's what Convex is. It's a hosted platform primarily.
Yeah, we're a service provider basically, right? So,
Jamie, you had another announcement to make.
Oh yeah, we have one really cool thing that's coming out that we've been working on for quite a while because we really wanted to get it right, and we know how high their standards are for DX, and so are ours. And that is a Vercel marketplace integration, which is, I believe, later today will go live. So like this is something our team has done great work on recently, and yeah, we're excited to get that out there. So if folks want to provision Convex as part of their Vercel flow, there's a way to do it now that will be pretty darn seamless. So I'm very excited about that.
Yep. So Triangle people, you can get Convex through your Triangle provider.
Exactly. And this is also just acknowledging most, I don't know if most is safe. Probably most might be safe. A ton of people are using Vercel and Convex together already anyway. And so this is pretty natural, partnership with them. So yeah, very excited about that.
Great. I'm going to get through some questions that were prepared ahead of time on our voting system. One is OLAP question. It was mentioned in fundraising. The Airbyte integration is unusable, according to Andrew. And I don't know, Andrew, you might be right.
Yeah.
And Fivetran expensive. So the point is, so Convex, as you know, has no built-in OLAP, no built-in analytics support. We recommend you stream data out to a different service to do that. Airbyte has not been reliable, and Fivetran is expensive. And so when do we have OLAP out of the box? A couple of things in there. I want to comment on the first. I agree with you on. I think Fivetran is kind of expensive, to be honest. But for most people who want analytics, that cost isn't prohibitive. But I agree. If you look at Convex's pricing compared to Fivetran pricing, Fivetran's going to look expensive because Convex is way cheaper by comparison. And the Airbyte integration is not great.
It breaks a lot. Yeah. So our API team is working on a Fivetran destination connector so that we can focus on Fivetran, at least when it comes to, because as much as I'm excited too about having OLAP in the product, people are going to want to stream data in and out of Convex, and there are a million places they want to bring it from and send it to. And so having a really good relationship with one of these connectors is still going to be really important to us. We just would like to kind of double down on Fivetran just because I think that the DX has been better with Fivetran. Our developers have had a better time with it. But yeah, the OLAP, built-in OLAP, I mean, we talk about it probably every week these days. We've got a bunch of ideas about how we're going to do it. I think given everything we have on deck at the moment, we won't get to it until the first quarter of next year. It's not going to happen this year. But there are some pretty cool designs people have in mind to leverage the data we have and just kind of seamlessly make some kind of high performance columnar engine like maybe DuckDB or something work really well.
Yep. We've been spending so much time scaling, which
Yep.
is, I guess, a good problem. It's nice Convex is growing, but there's a lot of work to scaling Convex, and we need to hire. There's a question here: what's the plan since fundraising? The plan is to hire more people and scale because we have so much demand that we can't necessarily service right now. Y'all can start using Convex just fine, but there's some big customers show up, big, probably bigger than y'all if you're watching the stream, and they're and we need to do some more investment before we can onboard some of these folks.
Yeah, I mean, I think that folks in our community probably noticed a couple weeks ago we had a rough week where we had database issues several times that week, and so there's been a huge effort that our team's done to get us prepared to scale for the next few years. And, that's required building a lot of new tools and learning the best way to use PlanetScale and lots of stuff like that. So I think we feel like we're in much better shape now, and we feel like we're in a pretty good spot now. But yeah, I mean, getting set up for the future so that we can stay on top of the scale is obviously, we can't neglect that because neglecting it basically means not being operationally prepared to keep your guys' sites running well, and that's just not acceptable, right? So that always has to be priority number one. But we're in pretty good shape now, knock on wood. So we're going to focus on all the more future stuff now, which is great to get back to it.
Yep. I'm going to do one more question from the pre the voting list, and then we'll just jump to questions in the stream. So the most the top voted question, I think, is very reasonable. There's like so many different types of auth that come with Convex, and the question is, with TanStack start, what is the recommended auth provider? Is it WorkOS? There's random issues with SSR, etc. I love the commenter said, I'd love an auth that works out of the box. What's the answer to this, Jamie? Yeah, I mean, we're still actively working on it, and I would say that WorkOS is probably the most polished integration so far.
Yeah, we want incredible auth for everyone using Convex, and then we've also learned by working closely with customers that one of the worst things in the world to have to do is 1 year into building your app, your needs get more complicated, or you start to care even more about reliability than maybe about how easy it was to set up in the first 10 minutes. And so because of that, like, that's part of what's really had us lean a lot more into like getting to know and working with WorkOS as a partner, is because WorkOS is has all the features teams need when their businesses grow and stuff like that. And our experience has actually been that, like, folks that end up using WorkOS end up happy in the long run, which is very cool. They like WorkOS in the long run. Because of that, a lot of what we've been doing with WorkOS, and they've been a great partner, is just working together on how to make the early experience better, right? Because WorkOS focused so much, I think, on being an excellent provider at scale, that they're now kind of investing a lot more heavily now into great early DX and not just like great late service as a company. But because of that, I feel like their future is really bright, because if they can figure out how to have a really, really excellent, and they're making fast progress, DX for those first couple months with their product too, then I think they're set up to do really well, both in the short term and the long term. Because of that, we are spending a lot more time with WorkOS, and I think that you should give WorkOS a try if you're launching a new project. They're investing, but that team is investing very heavily into TanStack Start. They're a sponsor of the TanStack Start project with us, so I'd still lean in that direction, and just keep reporting the SSR issues and everything. We're all working very actively on fixing all of those things, so they will get fixed over time.
And I saw some comments about, oh shoot, I'm using Clerk. Clerks love Clerk too. Clerks are good friends of the company. Don't need to move off Clerk. I mean, if you're happy with how that's working, keep using it. They're great people.
Yeah, the only thing that we have any intention to stop improving is Convex Auth. We won't stop maintaining the Clerk integration. Clerk is great, but so a lot of our focus right now is really on 3 places. It's on Clerk and WorkOS, and then if you don't want to have another provider, the Better Auth component. And so use one of those 3, and then let us know what doesn't work. If you don't have a strong preference for something else, I would personally suggest using WorkOS.
I'm just jumping to this one because it's a fun one to start off. I don't know how much I'm allowed to say, but I want to say that Convex is heavily undervalued right now, and you should come work at Convex. You're going to get
yeah. I think it's one way to put it is, the developers really love our product, but it takes a long time to build a database company. And right now, when investors are so singularly focused on these fat overnight AI companies, it's not the easiest environment in the world to build a database company. And we happen to know a lot of really great infrastructure teams and database teams that it's a difficult fundraising environment for them right now, because infrastructure needs more capital. It takes a long time to build enough evidence that bigger businesses can use it. And so yeah, we had our version of that where we had to be patient and lay out the arguments and get a lot of evidence and get a lot of other people to build a whole collection of people willing to invest together, and get a lot of support from insiders like our existing investors that still believe in us. So yeah, but I don't really want to go deep into the story, because I think fundraising, unfortunately, is not I think it sounds glorious on the outside, but it's really just kind of a grind, to be honest. I think every founder will tell you that, and that's very true. But I will call out that infrastructure companies right now are, unless they have a very specific line to hypergrowth AI, are having to put in the work to find true believers, because so much of the venture money is focused on new AI solutions. So
yeah, it's Well, I can't help but rant. But like, so just venture capitalists are not very good at having two eyes at once, right? Typically there's one thing, there's one hypothesis. That right now the hypothesis is AI. We have a strong team. We have great adoption. Convex is looking good. You know, it's good. So we were able to raise and the company's in great shape. You know, financially. Adam D'Angelo, he was the first CTO at Facebook and the founder of Quora and Poe. He's publicly an investor in Convex. He came to the office yesterday. He was talking about his investment thesis, you know, in a company like Convex. So yes, AI is a huge growth area, right? AI is where a lot of money is going to be generated in the economy. But where like real important companies arise is going to be through like durable, differentiated value. So in this kind of wave of development and all sorts of value getting created, where are the companies that are differentiated? They're like a unique. And unique from a technical perspective because they're hard to build. You can't just easily replicate Convex. It's quite a difficult challenge. It's not the kind of thing a small team can pull out in a couple of months. It's a many-year effort to build something like Convex, and also has high long-term retentive value because people build on Convex and they stay as Convex customers and they're happy and whatever. So Convex is a very strong pitch because even in this big wave of kind of AI-fueled development, there are companies like Convex that are not necessarily an AI company, but have real differentiated durable value throughout that wave.
Yep. And having said that, AI showing up when it did has been incredible for Convex, to be frank, because Convex works so well with it and models are more successful with stronger abstractions. So, but I'm explaining a subtlety. I'll be honest with you all. Most VCs don't make that connection. So most VCs are not very technical, to be honest, even if they ostensibly invest in technology. So yeah, anyway, but that's that.
Yeah,
so,
we're in great shape, but this is not a good era to start a non-AI company, just to be honest, because
yes, that's very true.
At least Silicon Valley venture capital, they're investing in AI. That's what they do. Cool. Yeah, default values. Yeah, I hope someone from the Convex team is watching this right now, and yeah, we should just do this. We have a task for it.
Yeah,
So,
I think there's a few things that people ask for that we'll have to look at, like default values. People ask for support for like better support for something like uniqueness and indexes. I think that the thing that's cool about any of these things is they can be built already, right? You don't need us to build them. I do think something like the Convex Ends project was a good example of if there are you can build a system with new ergonomics on top of Convex, treating it as more of a primitive layer. But I do think there are some things that are just so convenient and wanted so commonly that it's a distracting question that we should probably build them in. So I will say somebody complained about this the other day, and trust me, the team has been like embarrassed about this, but too busy to do anything about it for a long time, which means we should probably find a spare minute and fix it, it is so painful to rename a column in Convex, right? You have to create a whole second column, migrate all the data into it, so as you could imagine, like the column identifiers are virtualized inside our system, and so we really can do it more or less atomically. And so we just have never put in the kind of like syntax to like commit a kind of rename operation with the type safety you would need. There's a way to do it in the system, but we just haven't ever built it. So there's definitely some things, the schema definition and the way you manage schemas, that still need improvement, and I believe that probably is one of them, default values.
Yeah, Todd gets a bonus question. Yeah, Convex v2. Convex v2 is not a made-up thing. There's a whole doc. There's a bunch of changes we want to make, but we're trying to ease in most of those in a backwards compatible way in the meantime. Like, for example, Nicola's currently working on changing the syntax for get and patch and delete, changing how IDs look client side. We're going to change some of that syntax for filters and indexes, all in ways that are backwards compatible, and they're coming quite soon. The Convex v2 is a breaking API change, and I think there's some big ideas there around stuff like having processes and being able to have long running background jobs that can kind of pause a bit more like temporal-ish, like, it's a long conversation. But there is a Convex 2 being drafted. That's a breaking change, and I would love to get most of the improvements just into Convex 1, so you don't have to like change your code. I got to jump to this very important comment. I agree. I was just commenting before the stream. He looks great today.
I think it's a very low bar. All I did is put on a shirt that's not just like a graphic T-shirt, and then I won today by. But thank you. I'll take it.
I agree. I agree. Cool. AI agents roadmap.
Yeah. Do you have a sync from Ian on this, James?
No, when I saw this question, I ran over to Ian's desk to see if he was there, but he's not there right now, so I don't know the answer to this.
I mean, the short answer is I don't think we have a super defined one, right? The process of iterating on the agent component has been a very open one, just in the Discord channel, right? Where, there's a group of users that have been playing with the component, and Ian's been listening to feedback and changing it pretty iteratively. Most of the focus the team is doing on right now is focusing on things like the work pool component and some of these more fundamental pieces that need to be just extremely high performance because they're being used now with teams with hundreds of thousands of users and stuff like that. So we will double back to, I think the way we view a lot of the things we build is the first version's kind of an experiment that we'll just release an O dot whatever. We'll, everybody will try it. They'll tell us what works and doesn't work about it. And over time, as we build more confidence that we've got the abstractions right, then some of these things will make part of like the long-term supported product. We'll put them in the docs and we'll own them more fully. And the agent component is still a little bit in the experimental phase where, just how to move it forward. Join the Discord, join the agents channel, share your thoughts, and we're just treating that right now like an open source project that's more of a community effort than a core part of the platform. That could change sometime next year, but like the set of things we have to do in the platform are a little more fundamental than that in the next 3 months. So I don't think we'll be like firming up agents as a long-term supported product until at the earliest sometime next year.
Yep. TanStack DB official connection.
So I mean, I think it's everything. We've spent more time with the TanStack DB team. We obviously Convex is extremely involved in TanStack and Tanner's work in general, sponsoring it, using it, being excited about it. We going back to the thing James said before, we like. Let me like position like Convex version of local first as potentially 3 different things. It's probably more subtle than that, right? But like one is just some quality of life stuff we have to fix. Like we keep talking about client generated IDs, right? So it's really awkward to work with these systems until clients can originate documents in a way that fits ergonomically with the system. And that's still something we're working on and getting ready to ship. Then there's lots of ideas about how does the server side of local first work? Because you don't sync all the data to every server. Like that's a terrible idea, right? So there's this need to have an ergonomic way to specify what subset is sort of authorized to be synchronized, and then how do you do that in a way that's efficient with pages or deltas and stuff like that. So there's the server side of that. We have ideas around that, things that are like projections and various kind of designs that we got to figure that piece out. But then I do think the stuff that actually happens on the client, projects like TanStack DB could potentially save us a lot of work, because it's like, okay, well, once we've got the model of what is the data that and how does it move back and forth to the server, then I think reinventing the like local storage thing in a robust way, and what are the like application ergonomics around optimistic changes and stuff, as long as these local systems support the consistency properties we need about how communication works between the server and the client, we probably could save ourselves a big headache by maybe just using some of this stuff. And it does feel like TanStack DB is a pretty prime candidate. I know some community members have already started doing this work. If you join the local first channel in the Discord, there's a pretty cool project that already has been making TanStack DB work with Convex. So officially, I think we know we've got to get these other 2 prerequisites done first before we would consider making anything official. But yeah, that may be the direction we lean into as the easy and ergonomic way to solve this problem sometime next year.
Jamie, I was just smirking because I got a text from our friend David Fiedler, who was on the stream, hey, who said, I'm curious how much Jamie spent on soft filters and beautiful lighting. So I just want to say the fact that you're looking great hasn't been lost on anybody in the community.
Cool. Well, so this studio, this studio is something we just assembled slowly. Like James and I just basically buying shit from Amazon and then throwing up maybe another light go in this direction, And so, but a lot of this is like, you wouldn't be shocked to watch YouTube videos and be like, how do I get good lighting on? There's so many resources now about how to put something like this together.
The studio looks fancy, but that was amateur hour between Jamie.
It was amateur hour, and it actually wasn't that expensive, to be honest. Like just a few decent lights, and then it's not that hard to pull off. But thank you all. That's nice to say.
Does Convex think logging request payload is bad practice? Yes, I do think it's bad practice. Now you could I want to give a more nuanced answer, right? You could do it, right? If you had an application where for some reason you wanted to log every request you got and the payload, like the parameters in that request, there are folks who do it, it would work. But I just want to say, as someone who has run a lot of large scale systems, it's not something people typically do. Oftentimes you're logging request headers, things like that. We have those logs already in Convex. I just want to, I'd kind of ask you why. So you can do it, but I'd just be aware that this could be meaning a lot of data for you, depending on the app. Some people are getting, a very high number of requests per second, and if every one of those requests is storing some data, that can be a huge feed, especially if you're logging queries. If you're doing 20,000 queries per second and they're all writing to a stream, you just do the math. You might find out you're logging a huge amount of data, and it's kind of a rare thing to do, to log everything in a request. Typically, people are logging headers and stuff. Component SDK update. So Jordan, who's working on this, tells me that he's going to be free to be working on infra scaling at the end of the week. So I think it's done, and we have a launch coming up, right, Jamie? It's on the calendar,
in early December we're doing a kind of dev day event around the release of the component SDK. So it's coming very soon.
Let me look at my calendar.
I think December 2nd.
December 2nd at 11 a.m. I have a calendar event that says Components SDK live stream hold.
Yep.
So just leaked. There's a component SDK. There we go.
Yep. So imminent, coming very soon.
It's on the calendar. That means it's happening.
That means it has to happen. Yeah.
Calendars can't change. A Convex sync driver. So I'm actually not familiar with this, but what I want to say is I would love to encourage folks just to build, because Convex is a platform. You all can build this stuff too, especially once the component SDK is out. What is the component SDK? Convex components are like a weird hybrid of a service and a library. So they're like a library you can just call from your code, but they run in its own little namespace. Like you don't have to worry about data sharing between components. You can just drop in these components as modules into Convex. They run as sub-transactions. And so the components is how to make Convex extensible. There's components for workflow and workpool and Stripe and resend, and a lot of, and I'm not sure if the specific use case is a component one, but up until now, mostly we've been building the components. And what we'd like is for other people to can build components. And so that's going to be kind of officially supported. There's people doing it already, just unofficially, but people will be able to do it in a very official way starting in a week and a half.
And list them all in the component directory. So even though I think when people go to convex.dev/components, most, not all anymore, but most of those components were written by us. Our intention with that was to create kind of an open directory where we're, eventually 90% of the components in there are not written by Convex. They're just things you all write, find valuable. So, yeah.
Why isn't there an official Docker image for the Convex backend? This is probably my fault, yeah?
I don't know. Sure, let's blame you. That sounds fine. I mean, we have a Docker image, right? Because that's the way we distribute the self-hosted Convex. Why isn't it on Docker Hub, I suppose, is the question. I don't know. Maybe we should do that.
I think there was, when we did the open source release, there was kind of this thought of like, well, people should think carefully before deploying this and make sure they set it up right and do the replication. And because I wouldn't want someone like just throwing Convex on a laptop and then like losing their data because they didn't set it up right or something. And so maybe we made it higher friction than it needed to be. And I think that was probably a mistake. And if like our Docker image is not packaged up in the right way, or it should be put on Docker Hub, I'm down. So submit a PR or send us an email or bug us and we'll do it. Plans for building a way to search text like not sure. Yeah, so this question does make sense. So in SQL, you can do like queries where you might say, give me all the employees where email is percentage James percentage, right? Which matches anything that's with leading or trailing text and the word James in the middle of it. We kind of always say this variations of this every stream. Queries aren't a good idea in practice for most use cases on a large database. Because anytime you do a query in SQL and Postgres or MySQL, most likely it's just walking over the entire table and pattern matching every one of them, right? So doing this the naive way as a filter is generally not a good idea. Now you could write a filter in Convex that does like a just JavaScript like contains, which would work almost exactly the same, very very similar to how it works on a traditional relational database. But you can. Sorry, go for it.
I was gonna say, to be fair, if the was a prefix, it's possible an index would be used if it was an index.
If there was an appropriate index, right?
Yeah. If there was.
So what I would say is, yes, you can do this right now in Convex in a filter, just like you would do it in MySQL Postgres. But you probably shouldn't do that. You should probably use a structure that's designed for doing this efficiently. And we have full text search in Convex, and that is a structure designed to do this kind of stuff efficiently. I think it should be possible to do this right now in Convex.
Yeah, well, I would say just use full text search here, because databases like queries are almost like a underpowered version of full text search.
Yep, yeah, exactly. So just Convex, we're always pushing this like user friendly, but let's not sell fake magic, right? And stuff like queries is kind of like fake magic. It looks really convenient when you're getting started. No large scale application is going to work well with a query. So yes, indexes and design your schema so that you can just look it up very efficiently from index. Otherwise, you're in the land of full text search, and we have that. Able to do joins to create beautiful dashboard.
I think that's the true answer to that is you should probably use the OLAP system for that we need to ship for you. Like, I've worked a lot with customers building different kinds of dashboards. They normally want to, you want to be able to query your sort arbitrary different ways, which makes sense. You shouldn't add 16 indexes and then a query builder using code in Convex, which is unfortunately kind of right now most of what you have to do. You could use Fivetran to sync it to ClickHouse and use ClickHouse to make your dashboards. But the better answer, I think, when we have built-in OLAP is it's a perfect use case for dashboards. Is just use the OLAP thing for dashboards.
Hi, Nipun. I recognize that name because Nipun's a wonderful member of our team and has been to Convex for a long time. Nipun is probably the most kind of open sourcey of our people here. Nipun's very, very heavily involved in the open source community. And yes, apparently there is a Docker Hub on GHCR. Maybe we can put on Docker Hub. I don't know, Nipun, can we do that? It might be low effort.
Yep.
What else is Zod support? Have we not done this before?
Zod 4 support. I think we just shipped it, right?
Someone if we haven't announced it, it's done.
Yeah, I think it's done.
I've seen the work getting done. I just don't know if we've announced it yet. Optimistic when Nicola's working with
I think Mike Can released a video today on Zod 4 support in Convex, which I think is how I this morning was like, I didn't know that was shipped, but
Yeah.
So I think it's shipped, but
Good timing.
maybe someone on the team could tell us if we're right or wrong. If it's not shipped, I guess any day because we've got it queued up.
Yep. Thing happens every time. Yep. Still happening.
Yeah, we're still it's still the next up. All that stuff we've told you guys is true. We're very transparent with you all the database stability stuff. It's the same group of people that have been locking that down are the ones that need to take this on. And so now that the databases are in better shape, we want to start switching on to this very soon.
Yep. Gautam is working on it like imminently. Yeah. When do we not reset preview links to prods?
Prod staging dev setup. We are releasing we finally have a very good answer for this, and this is a lot of what our team is working on right now too. Convex is releasing our first enterprise plan in January, and late January, hopefully. Like we got to do all the work streams, but probably around that time. And so what that plan will let you do is provision whatever Convex deployments you want, right? So obviously like the free plan and the pro plan opt you into certain workflows, right? Like every developer has one dev deployment, there's preview deployments, and they time out after 14 days. There's one prod per project. It ends up that a lot of people, their needs are more sophisticated than that. They're more specific to their business, right? So a lot of people are enterprise, they're doing B2B work and they're reselling Convex. And so if they've got 7 big customers, ideally they want to have like 7 different productions that they can manage. And right now they have to create 7 separate projects, even though it's the same code base. It's pretty convoluted. So we are going to have support for all kinds of different configurations for staging and for you to be able to do what you want with different Convex deployments. We probably won't make that a feature of the pro plan. That will be the plan we're calling the business plan, which is going to be the first enterprise plan we launch in January. And if you're on that plan, you can go crazy and create as many deployments as you want and do whatever you want with them.
Yeah. We just want to basically make it more flexible, the number of deployments you have. By the way, probably you should mention this. There's sometimes confusion because folks think that because we have our limits on our pricing page and stuff, that it's hard to have like large numbers of deployments on Convex. There are customers with hundreds of thousands of instances on Convex. So it is possible. It's just that we got to chat about it, because it costs money to run that many. I mean, Convex is very efficient in how we scale these up, but it's not free for us to run 200,000 active projects. But if you are a vibe coding use case, for example, that needs hundreds of thousands or millions of deployments, that's something we can do. Just reach out.
Yep.
That'll be codified. That'll be codified in the plan later on. But until we have a plan, let's just figure it out. Just heads up.
That's people's businesses and needs have grown faster than our ability to create a nice package for them. And so we never want to say no to you all if you guys have a reasonable thing you want to do with Convex. So what we've done when people have needed this stuff is we've just done it privately and figured it out or added the API. So, and now we're trying to clean that all up and document it and create an actual plan to put people onto that.
Yeah. Don't let the plans limit you because oftentimes these folks show up early and we just do something custom. Is there a plan to make the self-hosted version of Convex scale horizontally? No, right now. Now, you could probably point it at planet scale and maybe set the right sharding key or something. I mean, you can maybe do something to do it yourself. And the reason for no is... what's the reason? It's hard. So when you get into the territory of horizontal scaling, so just say you're running Convex on 10 physical machines, that's a pretty tough place you're in right now. There's a lot of maintenance. What happens when one machine fails? How do you go from 10 to 11 machines and rebalance and repartition everything? How do you have monitoring to make sure they're working? Load balancing, etc. That's kind of what we do. That's part of we have very talented people here working full time on that. And so as much as I'd love to like just say, yeah, press this button and Convex is going to run on 100 machines for you. Convex runs on more than that many machines for us. We have a large infrastructure. AWS Bell would scare you. It's just a little bit too hard to automate that. And so probably you either should be using hosted Convex or at a company that for some reason can't use hosted Convex but has like significant infrastructure expertise to run large numbers of servers. Yep. Talk in Discord about improving response times and perf with components. Yes, this is actively happening. Jeffrey's working this. I don't know why I'm mentioning everyone's names, but it's nice to give shout outs to the team and people who are doing the work. Jeffrey's actively working on switching our execution model from separate isolates, separate V8 isolates for every cross-component call to using context in many circumstances and reusing context within the same component. Can talk in more detail about that. The short version of this is we're going to be spinning up far less JavaScript isolates to be able to run components. And that means there's like every time you call into a component, it's almost like a cold start problem where you spin up the isolate and then you load all the modules into it. That should significantly reduce latency for components. That work is happening right now. Yes, fetching data from better auth is slow. I agree. And this is a very important project. It's happening as we speak. It's actually some pretty serious engineering to get to work.
Yep. Eventually, the cross-component overhead should be not noticeable by you, but it takes work to optimize the system to that degree. But I think we've got really good people that are figuring it out. So hopefully you'll start to see within a month or two some real performance wins there.
Yep. Unique for schema.
I mean, I think we're getting into a very interesting debate about what things are just an ORM versus what things are fundamental. Like I actually had a really good conversation with another Convex user about this a couple days ago, where it was like, oh, y'all could just use unique. Like, look, we wrote an adapter, and it was like this very nicely done TypeScript thing, which wrapped our schema and then wrapped the type to have a little helper that just checks whether the row's there. And because at the end of the day, that's the database doesn't have any magic. That's the same thing it needs to do. It just checks to see if there's already something in the index, right? So I do think people are going to want a lot more stuff from Convex, and they're not all going to want the same thing. I would love to be able to figure out how to get more ORM kind of energy going in the community instead of having kind of every ergonomic improvement being something where it's like, if the Convex team doesn't build this, then we don't have what we need. I would love us to start layering some more opinionated ways to use the database is fine, but we're not going to all agree on every single convenience, and that we shouldn't have to. So I would love to encourage more ORMs and stuff. It'd even be cool if somebody was really passionate about ENTs. I know Michael still works on ENTs a bit, but to have more people contributing to ENTs, and because I think ENTs did this, I think ENTs supports the unique thing. So ENTs is there if you want those higher level things.
Yep. Todd has something he'll share. Yeah, and just to reiterate, unique is not like a special property of the database. It's just like a check if it's already there. Check if it's something already there.
Yep.
It's like you can implement it in user space, and
the database is doing nothing magical there. So that's Todd's thing is a good point, and then Dan, who was talking about yesterday, has his version, and then Michael made his version in ENTs. So I would love to just, instead of us having to change everything, it's like, how do we make it easier to make ergonomic, more opinionated wrappers, so that when people love a certain higher level way of making assumptions about what you want from the database, that you're able to use open source projects that are exciting and solve your problems, and you're not always blocked on the Convex team changing something.
Yep. When will we be able to? Oh, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, I dropped out. When will we be able to count? Is my screen working? I might have to refresh.
It doesn't look like you've updated the question. I can see your video, but we lost James. I will wing it and look at another question on the side. So let's see. Yeah, I know John is talking about. Oh, James is back.
Guess who's back? Back
right.
again. James is back.
What was the question, James?
Pulled out the
Diving into?
the cable accidentally.
Oh, count.
When will we be able to count? You can. So again, talking about aggregates here. Another thing, I don't want to be obstinate about this, right? Like you want the feature, and that makes sense, right? SQL gives you count and sum and average and all this kind of, they're aggregates. They're kind of statistics. So it's operations over a large group of data. And all of these generally are very inefficient, except for count. Count can sometimes be done magically and efficiently. So if you want to do something like compute average or sum over a bunch of fields, there's this thing called the aggregates component you can use. It's a little bit too powerful, I would say right now. What does too powerful mean? I think is not user-friendly enough. And so we should split out the aggregates component into separate, smaller, simpler things. But you can do this right now with the aggregates component. Will we support native count? Maybe, because we could just do that efficiently.
Yeah, I mean, at least I guess table level document count, because those are usually the statistics that are kept at the table level, and Convex does as well. But any more sophisticated count, like count of things within a subtree of the index, like that's what the aggregate component is for. And if you don't need it to be that like transactionally correct, and you want it to be easier to calculate, you can just use OLAP, and that'll probably be most of the time will give you exactly what you want, because you can run any sophisticated roll up, and it's usually what people are looking for.
You want to hear a secret? There is a dot count. It's just not exposed. Don't use it, because we might take it away one day.
Yeah, if you ever wonder how our dashboard knows how many documents are in the table, it's because the dashboard uses the secret dot count.
There's a secret dot count parens. But yeah, you probably shouldn't use it. It's not official. Okay, I clicked the wrong button here because we scrolled, but we can answer this. How's the offline support going?
I think teams are mostly just solving this themselves right now, using the mobile SQLite implementation or whatever to cache whatever data they need. In some cases, they're using Convex's optimistic update APIs to help. I mean, and this is going to be on. There's a big bifurcation here, right? Do you mean mobile React Native, or do you mean mobile native, Swift or Kotlin or whatever? Because there's very different. Solutions used in those two places. So React Native, but I think in both cases, this is kind of like, I will refer a little to like Theo flavored local first, which is, he's like, yeah, there's a little bit of data in my core interaction that I want to make offline and optimistic. I just solved that one part, right, by just doing that part myself, and then everything else just phones to the server because it's easier. So that's what most teams are doing, is they're just solving that one part themselves.
We need a video on how to do searches. Yeah, Mike or Mickey, one of you should do a video on this. Yeah, databases are good for very efficient lookups and any kind of aggregate slow pattern matching. That's for a search index, or that's for OLAP. Client-side ID allocation happening right now. It's happening.
Happening. It's a surprisingly complex project because it touches almost every part of our system, but it's getting there.
The reason why this is complicated is the IDs in Convex, they look random, but they're not random. They have information inside of them. They're kind of like an encoded message that has like table IDs and various things. And we use that to make certain operations on the dashboard efficient. So you'll know if you go to the dashboard, you could kind of hover over an ID and it takes you to the table that ID corresponds to. So the tables the IDs have structure. If you want to do client-side ID allocation, you can't really have that structure anymore because you can't control what the client's doing. They might be offline, etc. So we have to kind of break some of that functionality. How much will enterprise plan cost?
Yeah, I mean, we're still finalizing the prices, but the plan minimum will probably be 2,500 USD a month. And so that's not like a platform fee, like you have to pay that and then you get to start using Convex. It just means that there's kind of a minimum commit of 2,500 a month. So, and what we found is most of the customers that need those features are often spending that much or more anyway on Convex. So, yeah, that's
Yeah,
the straightforward answer.
some of y'all are gonna be like, "What? 2,500 a month?" And the plan's not for you, right? There's people who that's a tiny, tiny number for, and this is who the enterprise plan is. So is there a plan for having a UI for the workflow component? No, there's
Yeah.
not a plan. Is there a plan? I don't know, but I'd love for it to happen. I just don't think we've scheduled it.
Yeah, I mean, well, yeah, you're right, James. Of course, like there's not a specific plan, but um, yeah, like part of the components that Ian has built is he's played around with UIs to augment the component, right? And so they're not yet being embedded into the Convex dashboard, but we would definitely love to have at some point a a kind of framework to be able to have components embed controls into the dashboard so that call the queries and mutations and give you a better way to kind of monitor what the component's doing and also like manipulate it, like cancel all these jobs or whatever. So or visualize the graph of this workflow and like so I do think there are some I think in the repo there's like a playground kind of thing for workflow, but I can't remember for sure. But we will oh yeah, John has one, it looks like. Yeah, that's great. I would like it's definitely one of the things we want to figure out one day is how to have components be able to have their own kind of admin UIs and then eventually get those embedded into the dashboard.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, people building their own visualizations and control panels and stuff in Convex would be sick. How was database, bandwidth build? Well, we talk about it in our limits page. I can give a short answer here, right? Database bandwidth. What's the shortest way to explain this? So we say what we charge for on the website, right? So there's not like we don't want to rip you off or anything. Sometimes it can be hard to write an inefficient query in any database, right? And the way I think about it is this: you want your queries to be small and fast. And so, for example, and apologies to folks who this is might be basic for, but like let's say I have a query that looks up a user and checks their profile picture, right? There's two ways of looking up that user. You can do a query like in SQL without an index, where you walk over the entire table. This would be a filter in Convex. You walk over the entire table, looking for a user with the same user ID, with a filter, and then return it. Or you can have an index on user and just look it up straight away. And the implementation of these two things is very, very different under the covers, right? If you have an index, you're literally just going to a single row and taking it out. If you're using a filter, you might walk over 1,000, 2,000, 3,000 rows in order to find that user. And so this is just the unfortunately necessary part of using databases, whether it's a SQL database or a Convex. You do have to think about schema and indexes to be efficient. And so if you don't have appropriate indexes, you might find you're unintentionally reading typically huge amounts of data that you don't realize. You might have written, so we've had people launch apps before and they're just doing incredible numbers of reads and they're unsure why. One thing you can do is go to the insights page in the dashboard. We want to point this out to you. So I promise you, I don't want to trick you into doing this. I don't want to trick you into writing a bad query so that you pay a lot of money to us, right? We want you to pay money for doing useful things that you like. So we do want to surface to you whenever the query should have an index, or maybe the query needs to be changed. And the insights page in the dashboard will tell you this. But there's more nuances on how we do charging, and I'm happy to be very transparent about that. But I'll just keep it at that, and ask another question, or next stream I can go into more detail on this. If the bill is very high and you don't have huge numbers of customers, it's probably because some of the queries need to be rewritten to use indexes.
Yeah, and I think that maybe no matter what system you're on, this is just people might always say, why is the database part expensive part, because often that ends up being true on almost any system. And stateful services versus stateless services are just incredibly different, right? So something like your functions that run, if we need to run more of them, we can just provision more servers and we run more of them, right? So the database is kind of special though, because it is the finite resource in some ways. Like if those records need to get written off of the disk where they live, that's the only disk that can service the result, right? So it tends to be, for those kind of systematic reasons, the most scarce resource, and therefore the one that's the most expensive to scale. So
yeah, sometimes, when you're using Convex or many services, you don't quite realize how much power is behind the scenes. You might be doing a little old query and not realize that's hitting all these machines and walking over huge amounts of data and doing all these complicated reads. So yeah, it's expensive just because it's expensive to run, but we don't charge like a high. We don't have like extortionate pricing or anything. It's just stateful things, reading to disk, writing to disk, that stuff costs money.
Also, too, just in general, this is though to protect the downside, because obviously costing you money is, I understand, it's a huge downside, right? So for a lot of people, especially if they're independent developers or really early in your company, that this is why we built spending limits. So please, if you don't know about it, go into Convex. You can set a spending limit just to protect yourself from. We like James said, we have no desire to have you charge a lot of money that you don't have and you weren't expecting. Like, we want you to love Convex and find it valuable.
Yeah. I mean, we obviously can't leak customers' information, but I'd love for a customer to show you what their bill looks like, because there's folks with like very significant applications, and the amount of money they pay on Convex is tiny compared to what they're paying for some other very silly things like auxiliary services. So if designed correctly, Convex should be very, very cheap for most applications. Why is it a god? I mean, I ask this question every day. It's a tough one.
That's a funny question.
Solid.js adapter when?
Solid.js is great. We officially do not have enough people to support it yet. We are hiring. In the meantime, there are several community open source ones that work perfectly well. And part of why we did put the work in to kind of create, layers of libraries on the JavaScript side, including like, what is the core one called, James? Like, Convex JS or whatever, Convex-based client, is to make it really easy to embed Convex into other frameworks that you all care about. So there is a maintained thing we make that's designed to make it very easy to connect Convex to other frameworks. So, and other folks have done that in our community. So if you're not in the Discord, join the Discord. Like, there's people that are passionate about every framework, and there's open source adapters for most of those. When will we support it officially? I don't know. When we have more people is the honest answer.
The irony is Solid in particular just feels very Convex. Solid, I think, is like, the community has a similar mindset to us in many respects.
Yeah.
But
Convex makes Solid and Convex make a lot of sense together. Convex sponsors the Solid project because we really like Solid. I think one of the things we might consider doing at some point is, especially if it's like stuff we just don't have enough people to build all this, is can we find a maintainer that Convex can sponsor their open source work, so once again, so that you all aren't blocked on us having to build everything, because there's only so many of us here. We want these things to exist too, and if there's other ways we can help that to happen, we're open to it.
Is Convex dashboard built with Convex? Yes, it is. Almost entirely by one person. I'll say, not entirely. That's actually not fair to the rest of the team we're working on. But Ari at Convex has written a very large fraction of the dashboard, and is just so good at it. So good at making it ergonomic. But yes, the Convex dashboard is entirely built on Convex, and plus some APIs that you can call in to BigBrain, which is our metadata database, to like administer projects. Hey, Ian just came in. Ian? There was just a question on the stream that said, "Why is Ian a god?" Yeah. Just want to come poke your head in the back of the stream just so people can see the face of God. Look at this. It's Ian right there. So lots of questions about agent component.
Sure.
I won't bother you right now. I know this one here. Is there a particular agent builder that best works in Convex ecosystem? I know Ian has Convex agent. I don't know the answer to this question.
Yeah. A lot of people have tried a lot of things. If you hop into the Discord in the agent channel, like there's a lot of helpful people who are building real applications who will have kind of more informed takes than me off the cuff. So
the official answer is Convex agent, but we have a whole group of people on the Discord, and it's hard to keep on top of this. This is the challenge with this. We did all this. Ian did all this work, but then the agent kind of community moves so fast, and it's hard to keep on top of everything that people are working on. Look at this. Anyway, thanks, Ian. I won't bother you anymore. But yeah, jump in the agent channel on Discord. Now you finished the raise. Is the podcast? Thanks, Ian. Is the podcast coming back? Probably. I think we mentioned it before. I was under the impression that no one listened to the podcast, and then I keep bumping into people, especially like really cool people. Like I keep bumping into people who like I really like admire, who are like, "Oh, I love the podcast," and I'm like, "Oh, we should do the podcast again."
Yeah. We and our like a number of people, Mickey all the time is like, you guys should do the podcast. We've started to have our team say, we like y'all couple. I mean, raising money was a lot of work and took a lot out of the two of us. So that was all all encompassing for a while. And then, right now hiring so that we can make faster progress on all this stuff you guys need is also taking a fair amount of our time. I would love it if in some time early next year, James and I started to have more time available to start doing more stuff like that again. Like, let's bring the podcast back. So, but I mean, one thing I will say is when we made that podcast, Convex didn't have that many users yet, right? So James and I had a lot more time.
Now it does. And life got worse in almost every way except for the growth part, which is a good way.
Yeah, we used to have a lot more time to make podcasts, and now we're going to have to make some tough trade-offs. But I would like to find a way to do it. It's another thing where I don't know, probably not before February or March of next year. We're just going to be too busy for the next few months.
Yep. All right, we're at time, so we're going to do fast mode. No more questions. No more questions, please. All right. Cool. Why? Oh no, I'm going to get to that question, but I'm not ready for that one yet. Why is file storage so common? Why? Because we built it a long time ago and components didn't exist yet. If we did it again, we'd do it as a component and it would be awesome. I think we should eventually replace Convex storage with a component version of this, and it will be awesome. That's the why. I don't have a good excuse.
Me neither.
But yeah, I agree. It could be. It was built a long time ago. What do you think of Effector TS?
You're probably like splitting the founders on this one, right? So it's just, I will say, like, I'm more of a kind of functional programming, like hopeless romantic, right? So things like Effect kind of like, I think appeal to the Haskell of it all, kind of like, what? Oh my gosh, we could just abstract everything right now if we just made everything applicative or some kind of functor or some kind of monad stack or something. So having said that, like and then James, I'll represent James. James prefers things which are explicit. He's more willing to copy code and to like that manner of simplicity. So I think you would find Effect quite fancy and not particularly appealing. I think I get it. I think of Effect a little bit the same way I think about Rust. And I say that as a shop that has Rust, right? Is that if you have a team that's all extremely committed to Effect and is all willing to really put in the work to master it, it has a lot of benefits because there's a lot of things about how data flow works and errors work and composition work that in TypeScript is not great, to be honest. It's fine. It's workable, but it's not amazing. But you do need to have a kind of cultural commitment to like all building mastery with effect. And that is only going to work in certain kinds of shops and certain kinds of companies, right? I will say, unfortunately, I learned this the hard way building companies with Haskell for a while, that like I would be surprised if effect takes over the world, just because like the world is a very big place and most people writing software would probably not engage deeply enough with the ideas in effect to fully yield their benefits. But for teams which are really excited and to build some, to start using something which makes a lot of problems go away and they're all committed together to do it, I think effect is an incredibly cool design. And I know it's working really well for some teams you respect, like the T3 chat team. So yeah.
Yeah, I tend not to like cool. I'm a very
You just don't like cool stuff. Yeah, what's wrong with you?
I don't like cool. I like. Don't make me think. Okay. Well, when would you say Convex is not a good option? If you have a primarily analytics heavy workload, then you're going to have to stream. As of right now, you have to stream that data out to a third party service for analytics of. Otherwise, Convex is a pretty good use case for most folks.
I mean, if you're not like right now, the only supported backend language is TypeScript. So if you hate TypeScript and you want to use Go, or whatever, Java, Convex probably won't be for you, because even if you can connect other languages to Convex on the client and the server, you're stuck with TypeScript. So, and I'll go as far as to say, if you really don't like writing TypeScript, even on the client, you won't get as many of the benefits from Convex. Like, Convex now has a Swift adapter. We've got Christian on our team has been making that better and better, because there's a number of companies that are starting to really use that at scale now. But I think that if you're 100% a Kotlin shop, and nobody on your team likes TypeScript, Convex might be like, what is this thing? I have to write a lot of TypeScript and like know what NPM is and learn about that world. So that's another dimension. I also think, if you're doing something that's like a very single loop, like I want to write a program that just like is long running and pulls something, or Convex is more built for this kind of event oriented triggered cloud idea. It's not really built for like single loop kind of long running server models. I also tend to think those are usually not a great idea unless you have to do them, but sometimes you either want to or you have to, and Convex doesn't fit that very well.
Yep. There's a website called Convex Sucks, convex.sucks. We made it.
I think that should be the aspirational goal, James, is the first episode of season 2 of Database is revisiting convex.sucks. And then we just say, we made progress on these things still suck, and then here's some new things that suck. Like it'd be nice to revisit that and update it, because it's over a year old now. So yeah.
Now, you all cheated and put some interesting questions after I said no more questions, so I'm going to answer them really quick because I like the questions. There's been some outages, AWS, Cloudflare. How do we handle it? This is a whole database to podcast episode, right? The way to handle reliability is typically not multi-cloud. And I know y'all think I'm crazy, but this is my job at Dropbox. Simplicity is reliability. And typically the reliability impact of spreading your data across multiple cloud service providers simultaneously leads to higher levels of outages than keeping your infrastructure as simple as possible. So we typically, what we do is we try to not use any kind of fancy value add services like electric containers, something beanstalk, right? Like we try to just use EC2 and RDS, it's EC2 now primarily, and we treat it like cattle. This is a phrase that they're cattle, not pets. You treat your infrastructure as something that doesn't matter that much, and you have a lot of automation around keeping it simple and being able to move things around. There's a whole podcast on that thing. But I will say, despite what you might hear on the internet, the answer is not multi-master replication, and it's not multi-cloud. Typically, unless you're building PagerDuty, that might be different. But typically, that's not how to build a reliable service.
Yeah, I would state a very high wager on, in the vast majority of cases, teams that pursue multi-cloud have worse reliability in practice than teams which pick a trusted provider and are willing to live and die by that provider's ability to stay online most of the time. Like the complexity is so crippling to your ability to move without breaking things. So we used to describe some of these patterns as like, you do all this work to prevent having one bad day every 5 years, and then but in a trade-off, you're just literally slapping yourself across the face every day on your way to your leg. And it's just, you find in practice that like it just actually ends up not being worth it. But yeah, that is, I like James said, like I think all the theory about how to reliability in practice kind of stuff is a whole, I mean, it can be a series of podcasts. It's such a fascinating area.
And we say that having designed the distributed databases, the Dropbox and the distributed storage, and built the multi-homing and all that kind of stuff. So we've done this stuff at $1 billion scale, but I have some strong opinions that probably are not the same as most of what Twitter thinks. Do you allow any kind of app? Yeah, mostly. I mean, provided things are legal, right? And they're not in violation of our terms. Our terms of service are on our in the fine print. We do have various kinds of apps like this running on Convex. So if
you're not breaking the law, and you can't break the law with Convex, right? So our terms of service is extremely similar to something like AWS, right? I mean, we run on AWS, so therefore I think via pass through we are subject to AWS's TOS as well, but we're not really any more constrained than that, right? So the implication of this often being, if it's adult content or whatever, are we okay with that? The answer is yes. There have been and are adult services running on Convex, and we don't have an objection to that.
Yeah, we don't really have an opinion on what anyone does on Convex, provided it's legal and ethical. Cool. And I just want to end on this nice message. Thank you so much. We try to be as open as possible and try to maybe say things a lot of founders wouldn't say, and just be kind of as transparent and so appreciate the feedback.
Thanks, everyone.
Catch you all next time.